Hey y'all, how you doing? Kanal here, Bulls on Wall Street. So, essentially a choppy week in the markets. It felt worse than it looks on the indices. That's for sure. Um, we're only a few percent away from highs, yet the action had been pretty terrible most of the week. Yeah, we did get a bounce on Friday, but we faded a lot of the gains, as you can tell by this candle, right? Uh, we started off strong and just gave it all back. And so this market still right now is going through a little bit of what we call distribution type action where the spikes are getting faded and extreme weakness is getting bought and you're basically in a bizarre market. If you try to buy high and sell higher, which is right essentially one of the tenets of breakout trading, those type of plays are fading. If you're trying to time bounces on some of these stocks, well, it might take you two or three shots to really get the right entry. And even then, you might have the perfect entry and things get faded off. We had this Zillow nailed on Friday for, right at a really key level in terms of, hitting this thing at the open, not at the open, but a little bit after the open. And, this is very typical of kind of what's been happening in the market. You know, the stock gaps up, and we have essentially an opening range play. And we got this thing, around a little bit under 88 bucks, I believe, around 88 bucks. And this stock rips almost $4, and so uh, right, that's the kind of move that you want. And in the context of really where it's came from, that's you're looking at potentially the bottom holding onto a stock, and you're really getting a nice swing trade out of it. And you could see what happened, right? This thing just faded back. We scaled out all along the way. I planned on turning this partially into a day trade and then holding a couple lotto shares as a swing trade. But as it got really extended and the rest of the sector, not sector, but these type of momentum stocks were getting faded off, you kind of knew what was coming. That, all these big bounces in these stocks, see that you get really, really sharp bounces and then they sell off. Really, really sharp bounces and they sell off. And, we did the same thing with KNDI. We had a really nice trade in KNDI, that we got at the open, and we were looking at it for essentially what we'd call, a 50-day moving average bounce play. And, that same type of thing happened. The stocks, they're so volatile, they squeeze really, really, they squeeze a lot higher, but then, they fade off. We played the gap open, and then when it took out this kind of 1650 resistance level, we entered this bad boy, and you got a really nice dollar spike into it, but then look what happens, right? Big fade off, and then back down lower than where it started, and so fill in this gap. So this market, when you see action like that, especially on stocks that are at key inflection points, like your 50-day moving average and things like that, and you can't really get a proper bounce there that holds, where you can at least hold a bit for a swing. I had a couple thousand shares, and essentially I was going to keep 500 for, a swing, and, the stock ripped so hard, and, you start to see the weakness start to come in, and so you just can't hold on to these right now, and that's unfortunate. Ideally, typically when this market's been getting oversold in the past, you start adding on some swing trades and stuff like that, and you can really get some nice entries in stocks. We're just not seeing that right now, so you got to be a little bit careful. This is the watch list. ARTX, this is a stock that's really, really strong right now. One of the few really expanding volume. Definitely something you got to keep on your watch list. If we start to see a bounce in bios, this one after its news came out basically gave the whole thing back. So definitely looking at this for a potential bounce. Moby is another one that's been a huge momentum stock. It's really starting to kind of base out around this 8 level, and I've been watching this one. I think kind of 860 or so will trigger this one. CYNI, another one that's like in a base breakout formation. It's just been chilling here. I don't know when it's going to go. It could be any day. It might need some type of catalyst, but I've been really watching this one. SWHC 1450. After this earnings gap, it's just been consolidating for about a month. You're looking at that 14 level, 1450 level, just keeps tapping that bad boy. MNI, another really strong one. It looks like 650 is a really key level. FSLR, after such a huge run, it hasn't given back as much as you would think. A lot of momentum has been really, really getting crushed, and you're seeing the speculative sectors really selling off the most and are the most oversold. And this one's held up really well. I definitely think that there's going to be a nice play in this sometime this week. Lynn, just flagging here over 26. We can kind of come out of this range. You might see around the 28 and then a breakout. DXM, this stock was just a huge, huge mover. I believe this was an earnings push, and it really ran into 10, which is a monster resistance. It's come back to support now. I expect that this market bounces. This is a stock that can really bust a move. You can see, right, the volume spike in this bad boy. SLCA, this is what we call flat top breakout, right? You just essentially, tap, tap, tap this level over here. This one looks like it could move. This stock, you're not going to be able to day trade this. You can see here, its range is just not enough. The way it moves, it's liquid enough, but the way it moves and the way it acts that's not a good day trading vehicle. This is something you might have to hold for a few days. XCL, right? Oil and gas was really showing up on a lot of my scans here. This 550 mark looks to be, a really key level. Nice volume accumulation going on the last couple of weeks. Looks pretty good. TMUS, I've never actually traded this stock before, but you can see the consolidation, right? Test, 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 test. We're coiling up right over here. There's a play in this. Once again, this looks to me like a stock that can't be day traded either. It doesn't have the big, wide range, volatile moves that would allow you to take proper day trades in it. This is going to be something you probably have to hold for a few days. BBY really holding this 25 level well here. Looks like a base breakout's coming. Zillow, I still got this on watch for a breakout pullback play, even though it keeps fading off. I'll keep an eye on this one. YY held its 50-day moving average. KNDI, same type of thing, held its 50-day moving average, even though it sold it off. The setup is still there. GMCR really riding nicely along support here. I think that we could get a run back to kind of at the top of its range before it really figures out what it wants to do. It might have to coil up for a while. TKMR, Biotechs Go, this one had a really nice kind of tank job on it. Obviously, if you're looking at the chart, the top has probably been put in on this stock. But I definitely think that we have kind of a reversion to the mean type of trade here with, a lot of room between its, next levels of resistance. Take this one off the list. ZU, nice bounce. Give back some of its gains, but it had a really nice bounce. I think that this one's got more upside in it. And then take that off the list too. And we should be good to go. So that's it for now, guys. This was a tricky, tricky market. My trading even last week was a little bit off. I was looking through some of my trades, and really, if I had made a few, my gains were just totally off what my norm would be. But I made some uncharacteristic mistakes, and this happens in a choppy market. Like trying to time the ZU stock for the bounce. You can see I took 3 trades in this. Where I lost, right? So $1,000, $500, $90. That stuff adds up. You got to be really careful when you're timing this. And looking back, I just had way too much size. If you're going to have some, 600, 700 shares, something to have a $2 stop loss, that's just unacceptable because your risk on the trade is so high. When the market gets choppy, your risk per trade, you got to cut it back a little bit. And so, say you have a $400 max loss per trade, you got to move it back to 200 or something like that till the market starts to show where it wants to go. So I saw, looking back at my trades, probably I made a few uncharacteristic errors of, taking a little bit larger loss than I normally would like to in terms of my max loss. Moby, same thing on Friday. I chased it a tad too high. I do like the stock for a bounce idea, but I chased it a tad too high, and then I just hit too many shares. A lot of times these bounce stocks, you got to try them one or two times before they actually you
Babies come
nailed
from?
exact
That's a
entry. And so if
great
that's the
question,
case,
honey. Well,
then
did you know
you
Geico
got to
been
go
saving people
in
money
a
for over
little bit
75 years?
smaller
Yeah,
in your
but
position, and then
Geico. 15 minutes could save you
and then
15% or more.
really go a little bit smaller in your position, and then add to it as you get confirmation. So, that's it for now, guys. Email me if you have any questions with everything. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Let's get to freaking work tomorrow. All right, take care.